Good afternoon. In America, we really stress the importance of voting and how it's so important to hear every voice. But we're really missing out on a big chunk of our population, those who are incarcerated, felons and prisoners, and even ex-felons. Some ex-felons don't even get the right to vote at all. So first to go over our voting rights for felons in America. In the District of Columbia, Maine, and Vermont, felons always maintain the right to vote. But in 23 states in America, felons are not allowed to vote while being held, but they are upon release. In 14 states, felons are not allowed to vote while being locked away and for a period of time after, but eventually they regain their right to vote. And in 11 states, felons lose their voting rights indefinitely. And they might even have to have a governor's pardon and more, go through more lengths to try and regain their right to vote. I got that helpful information from www.ncsl.org. Now we went over our kind of state laws and regulations about felons, but we haven't addressed prisoners. Contrary to popular belief, state laws are not the prohibitor of inmate voting. The prohibitors are how challenging the process is for people to vote, like in your local state prison, and how the inmates don't really have a lack of awareness about when is election day, can I even vote? They don't know these things. According to sentencingproject.org, jail administrators often lack knowledge about voting laws, and bureaucratic obstacles to establishing a voting process within institutions contribute significantly to limited voter participation. Many inmates are not made aware that they have the right to vote and when election day is, and they also have a hard time accumulating their voting forms and their absentee ballot. I looked on campaignlegal.org and found out the prison admins and election officials fail to provide prisoners access to the things they would need to vote. So the prisoners, even if they were aware they could, they're not really being helped out much by election officials. One survey found that 30% of election officials in Ohio didn't know that if those serving misdemeanor charges had the right to vote. These are the professionals. They are not even made aware of simple things like this. I also found that out from campaignlegal.org. My argument. So we went over our problem, why this is such a big stink, how we're missing out on a community of people that we could be using to hear their voice, and every vote matters, but yet we're neglecting these people, which I don't personally think is right. I think it is important for everyone to be heard, regardless of past mistakes. I think that encouraging prisoners to vote might help them have a more patriotic attitude and behave better in jail. Now, I have a video that kind of supports my reasoning here. It's a short 25-second clip.
One vote can most definitely make a difference, because my one vote could be the vote that actually get that person into the office.
It lets detainees know that you too can be a member of your community and directing it in a positive way.
Okay, now we've talked about our problem. I've stated my argument as to why I think that these people should be given a chance to vote and to be heard. Next, I'm offering a solution. There needs to be more organizations that have the primary goal of making voting accessible to inmates. One example that made an impact in voting turnout is Chicago Votes. That organization hosted registration drives in the Cook County Jail in 2017, and they've been holding registration drives ever since. According to campaignlegal.org, they were able to push the state and country to open an early voting site inside the jail for the 2020 election, which led to a 40% turnout rate among the inmates. So we need more organizations that's primary goal is to help the incarcerated vote. And as far as the bigwigs, the felons in the world. I think that I understand while they're being held in prison, they probably shouldn't vote. But after, they should really regain their rights right after. To the 11 states that neglect to really ever give felons their voting rights back, I think that needs to be worked on, and new laws need to be created. So in conclusion, my two solutions are that we create laws that help felons vote, and that we create more organizations that are really focused in voter awareness for inmates and people at your local prisons that sometimes really haven't even committed that bad of a crime. Thank you so much for your time.